Should I start, Mark, with the breaking news that I've got here on KCMO Talk Radio?
Oh, hell yeah.
Let's go. Let's go, baby.
Woo!
Let's do it. Good morning. It is a Friday, 6:04 on KCMO Talk Radio in Kansas City. And I will start with this. And I will just throw it out there and you do with it what you want. I've been sitting on this for, about a week and a half, 2 weeks now. And just waiting for more sources and more confirmation on this story. And I can confirm that the Chiefs have an RFP out, a request for proposal, to build a new stadium at 435 and 70 in KCK. It would be a domed stadium, 65,000 seats, a retractable grass field like what they do in Vegas. And this does not mean they're going to Kansas. It doesn't. It just means that there is an RFP, a request for proposal, out on the streets. It has been thrown out there to multiple architecture firms who are obviously being asked to bid and throw their ideas out there and share proposals and things of that nature. And that if this thing does come to fruition on the Kansas side of the state line, there will be two finalists who will be picked early next year for what they would dub a design competition. So, once again, this does not mean the Chiefs are going to Kansas. That's not what I'm telling you. That's not what I'm reporting at all. I'm just telling you that there is at least movement on a potential stadium on the Kansas side as they try to obviously hedge their bets. If I was a betting man, and this is just me being a betting man, not like Mark who does, 6-7-way parlays on a Purdue St. Francis game on a Tuesday night with a 35.5-point spread. I'm not talking about something like that. I'm just saying my gut still tells me that they stay where they're at Arrowhead Stadium. But at least there are conversations and RFPs being put out there on the street to various firms, and there's NDAs all over this thing. But there is at least movement on the Kansas side of the state line as they consider some type of a dome stadium, 65,000 seats out there by the Legends. So that's the report as we kick it off on a Friday morning. And we're still waiting to see what the outcome of the Royals' goofy monkey survey poll is going to be, where they threw out ideas around, hey, we're going to ask the fans, you want North KC, you want downtown, you want Overland Park, what do you think? Because that's how multi-billion-dollar deals get done, through survey monkeys, right? That's how it goes. You got to be kidding me. But I will say, and this was shared with me the other day, and I hadn't put two and two together, but this was the first time since the failed vote in Jackson County that the Royals had publicly acknowledged North Kansas City is a legitimate site for a future ballpark. My guess is this poll, it's kind of like a push poll in politics, where they're going to get the result that they want to get to justify whatever the means are. Like whatever they actually end up doing, they will use this poll to partially justify it. That's my guess. I don't know what the outcome of the poll is going to be. I happen to believe, based on my reporting and sources, that North Kansas City finds itself in a very good spot. Doesn't mean it's a guaranteed done deal, nothing like that. They just find themselves in a very good spot. Overland Park is number 2 at 119th and all. And I don't even know why they put downtown on the survey. From what I gather, it's basically finished. Nothing's happening down at Washington Square Park. Not enough land, not enough other ways to make money. That's the whole point of moving. And the ingress-egress is an absolute nightmare. And frankly, let's be honest, the state power players here, the Mike Kehoes of the world, who has been deep in the weeds on this thing. I mean, he is, if this thing gets done, Mike Kehoe may not get enough credit for keeping both of these teams in Missouri. But all the big power players in Missouri are like, Royals, go up north, go to Clay County. And that is compelling, obviously, for the team, knowing you've got state buy-in on one of these two locations on the Missouri side to spread out some of that tax base, help keep the Chiefs in Jackson County at Arrowhead Stadium. That's what the statewide power players want. And that matters here in all this, right? When you're talking about transportation money and ingress, egress, and rebuilding highways and roads and bridges and things of that nature, that matters. So that's where all this stands right now. And I do believe that we are down the home stretch. Maybe 2-3 weeks to go, give or take. I'll say, you know what? Let me say 3 or 4. All right? I don't want to jump the gun. I mean, nothing's been done ahead of schedule or on time. But give it 3 or 4 weeks. And you did hear Kansas Senate President Ty Masterson say, if anyone's coming to Kansas, well, you know what? We got to know something by early December at the latest to approve it by the December 31 deadline. So that's where we're at right now as we kick it off on a Friday morning on KCMO Talk Radio. My buddy Nick Haynes, Kansas City PBS, will be here to talk about the week that was in Kansas City in less than 1 hour, just after 7 o'clock on 95.7 FM. Now, we are sitting here still on day 38 of a government shutdown. And if you were hoping that the GOP was going to nuke the filibuster, as the president has alluded to, well, I have bad news for you. The votes are not there. Now, I happen to be someone who is glad the votes are not there to nuke the filibuster. I get the frustration. I really do. But I'm not going to play Chuck Schumer's game. No way, no how. And here was Ted Cruz yesterday, Fox Business Network, confirming that, hey, votes ain't there.
I'm sure you were at the Republican breakfast with President Trump. All right, he wants to end the filibuster, okay? And he's, campaigning on it, talking about it, tweeting on it. He talked to you all at the breakfast meeting. What does Senator Ted Cruz think about this?
Look, the votes are not there to end the filibuster. It is not every president of our lifetime has wanted to end the filibuster, because if you want to move legislation through, the filibuster necessarily slows things down. I can tell you that when Joe Biden was in the White House and Democrats had the House and Senate, it is only the filibuster that stopped us from absolute devastation.
And I will never forget that. You and I both remember some of those dark times where, boy, if they had nuked that thing then, if they had the votes to nuke it then, I bet you President Trump is not the president of the United States today. I bet you Republicans don't hold the U.S. Senate today. There may not be a traditionalist majority on the Supreme Court today. And I know some of you are going to sit there and you're screaming right now at the radio. You're screaming at your Alexa. You're screaming at your podcast if you're listening later. I don't care. I'm going to do it anyway. Maybe. It's possible. It's very possible. 2 things. I don't want to give them a reason to do it. I don't want to be the catalyst for why they did it. And also, the Senate map, when you look at how the Senate, the Senate doesn't turn over every 2 years like the House does. Everybody's not on the ballot at the same time. In the U.S. Senate, you have it staggered, where there's 6-year terms and people stack up and go to re-election at different times. When you look at the Senate map for 2026, it's favorable to the GOP. They should hold the Senate next year, even if they lose the House. Same thing going on to 2028. So when you look at those maps and the way they break out, things actually set up pretty well for the GOP to hang on to the Senate. The only way they don't is if you somehow drum up massive Democrat enthusiasm in these states. They flip a couple of big swing seats, they get the power. And one of the ways to do that, I believe, is to nuke the filibuster, energize their base like crazy in swing states, win back the Senate, and then they will go to absolute town on you. That's what they'll do. And it won't take them long to do it, I'm sad to say. So they're holding firm. Get it going, John.
So you don't think out of 52 Supreme Court justices we could get a conservative majority, one for every state plus Puerto Rico and D.C.?
I don't 52-seat Supreme Court. They're going to need new chambers if they get that big.
Sure.
Holy smokes.
Suddenly they'll tear down the Trump ballroom. And
yeah, exactly. They can use the new ballroom as the Supreme Court headquarters with 52 of them sitting around. Oh, my goodness. But there is a new plan for today as we sit here on day 38 of this government shutdown. There is a new plan to try to reopen the government. And we'll share with you what exactly that looks like coming up next on KCMO Talk Radio 95.7 FM. So there's a new plan today for the GOP on day 38 of the government shutdown. Different approach to try to end things, according to CBS News, with the hopes of peeling off enough moderate Democrats to end the stalemate. The GOP plan involves a vote to advance the House-passed continuing resolution with the goal of amending it to include long-term appropriations bills and as an extension of government funding beyond November 21st. Senate Republicans are hoping, according to CBS, that moderate Democrats who have been involved in negotiations all week will be enticed by the appropriations bills and a promise to hold a vote on extending health care subsidies. Friday's vote would need 60 votes to succeed. Of course, that is a bar the Senate has failed to clear for the last 37 days. Senate Majority Leader John Thune telling reporters at the Capitol last night, "My hopes and expectations are always that we're going to have enough Democrats to actually proceed, but I don't know. We'll see." So that's the plan today. At least there's a plan. I mean, I'll give them that much. At least they've got something new to bring to the table instead of just the same old, all right, let's go vote. Oh, man, we came up short just again. I can't believe it. Wow.
Talk about a bombshell.
You've got Democrats emboldened coming out of Tuesday night's elections, although they're overplaying their hand on that. Big time. If they think that they had landslide victories in blue states on Tuesday night because they shut down the government, I mean, they're sorely mistaken. But that's what happens, right? When you come out of these elections, you can basically make up your own narrative as to why one side won and one side lost. It's not like sports. Like in sports, it's very obvious. In football, it's like, hey, we lost because, well, we couldn't slow down the Bills' running game. We couldn't stop James Cook. Whatever it is, it's very obvious. Like you can't really debate why a team lost. I mean, some people might always want to blame the refs, but you know how that goes. Those people are always out there. Same thing in basketball. It's like, hey, we got killed from three-point land. They knocked down 50% of their three-pointers. We lost the game. Like, you know why you lost in sports. It's always very obvious. In politics, you can more or less create your own narrative as to why one team ends up losing. And that's a shame, but that's what happens all the time. So Democrats right now are out there saying to themselves, hey, we won because we shut down the government and we're standing firm and we're fighting these guys and people love it. Now, I really don't think people love the idea of air traffic controllers being short-staffed and not getting paid. I really don't think they love the idea of you guys in Congress getting paid while regular people in the government aren't. I don't think they love the idea of, while we have a problem with our food stamps program, people who need them not getting their food stamps right now. Airlines being a mess. No, that's not. You won because it's an off-year election, first big chance for people who don't like Trump to go to the polls and have a voice on that stuff, and that's what they did. And that's how it went down in traditionally blue states. You put a lot of money into it. They funded their ground game very well, and that's it. But please, don't think that the shutdown is the reason that you guys are having a little success here on Tuesday night, because that's not the case at all. 913-408-7957. It is a Friday morning in Kansas City. It is going to be a beautiful Friday, by the way. Enjoy it, because by Sunday, we're not cracking 40 degrees. Let's go to Victor. He is in Parkville to kick it off on a Friday. What's up, Victor?
Good morning, Pete. It is going to be a beautiful day. I'm glad you kind of brought this up, and I can't believe they're actually considering this. The founders, Jefferson, Madison, Adams, Franklin, and all them, through the founding documents, created the greatest nation on earth, the vehicle for freedom and prosperity. Okay? And the brain trusts of today, who bought into global warming, climate change, transgender, psychosis, and all that kind of stuff, these people can't even balance the budget. And they think they know best? How about we go back, reread the founding documents, and apply the principles that created this nation? Stop screwing with what got us here and go back to the founding. I mean, it's not complicated.
So what do you want to see them do exactly?
First off, well, I'd love to see term limits, but first off, do not blow up the
Filibuster?
The filibuster, yes, exactly. I mean, I'd actually like to see them bring the filibuster back on some of the other items, and I do think that we should probably work harder at. I mean, if you're going to if you're going to stick to your guns, stick to your guns. The Republicans need to point out exactly who's at fault and put out the verbiage better. We need better spokespeople and better people out there pointing out that this is the issue. It's Democrats who are holding this up. They're the ones.
Now, listen, I'm not against what you're saying, but when you say better spokespeople, I mean, Mike Johnson's doing a daily press conference at 9:00 every day, pointing this out. Are you not happy with him? Is there someone else you want to hear do it? What do you? What's the exact answer on that?
Well, I like what Johnson's saying. I like that Cruz is saying it. I guess maybe what I'd like to do is see them out on the other medias and actually promoting it. Because right now we're just preaching to the choir. The people who are actually putting that information out on the networks that carry it, we're preaching to the choir. Most of us know this stuff who are on our side of the aisle. But the people who are actually voting for Mondami and, Newsom and that kind of stuff, they need a civics class to start with.
Well, that is true.
They're placing the blame on the wrong people.
Well, here's the problem, Victor, and have a great weekend, my man. Here's the problem. It's harder than ever to reach people that you don't agree with. Now, what I mean by that is Victor brings up the people voting for Mamdani. You realize they go on their social media feeds, they go on TikTok and Instagram and wherever else, and they will never see anything that I say, obviously, that Mike Johnson says, that anybody says. They won't hear Victor's call. Because of the way social media platforms work and the algorithms feed you what you believe and what you want, that's what keeps you on the platforms. That's what keeps you scrolling through their platforms. You're never going to get that. I mean, even if you say, hey, Mike Johnson, go on TikTok. Okay, but the people that need to hear the message of what Mike Johnson is saying, they will never see Mike Johnson's TikTok feed. So it's easy, and I'm not disagreeing with Victor, but it's easy to say, we got to get in front of these people. How do you do it? We are all in our own echo chamber and our own little bubble. And actually, I believe that talk radio, and radio in particular, which is still a mass medium that can reach a lot of people across different ideologies. We have proven that here on KCMO. There's a lot of people listening right now that may not agree with me. That's cool. They can call up the show. We can have a conversation about it. That's what's great. We're one of the few final places where you're going to have that broad tent and be able to have that conversation. Because on social media, you're not incentivized to do that. The companies aren't. But coming up, let me ask you, are you all concerned about traveling or flying right now? Someone in Missouri is. We'll talk about him and what's going on that front. It's a member of the Senate, by the way. He brought it up. He's spot on with this, and we'll explain what he had to say coming up next. Josh Hawley is sounding the alarm, rightfully so. Missouri's senior U.S. Senator saying this yesterday as we sit here on day 38 of the government shutdown. And, screwing with air traffic is not the way to do it. And the FAA has ordered airlines to cut flights at 40 airports. Kansas City is not on that list right now, but obviously you could be flying somewhere today that is on that list. So you're sitting there wondering if or when you're going to get back, right? So even though it's not impacting us right here in Kansas City when it comes to cutting flights, it very well may impact a lot of the people who are leaving KCI and going somewhere else, assuming they want to get back. Now, maybe if you're leaving and you're like, hey, I'll take a break. I don't mind. A little peace and quiet for a couple extra days. I'll figure it out. Maybe that's some of you. But for most people, it's like, no, do not screw with this air travel. And this is what Josh Hawley said yesterday to reporters.
All it takes is one little accident and people die. Not just get hurt, they die. So air travel is nothing to mess around with.
He is so right. And this is what they're doing. They are screwing with the air travel. And we saw what happened to the UPS flight. And that, to be very clear, had nothing to do with the government shutdown. That was an engine issue that resulted in 12 people dying outside of the Louisville airport earlier this week. But the point is, air traffic or air travel is very safe in this country. Thank goodness. But one mistake with air traffic controllers not getting paid, being short-staffed as is, now being shorter-staffed, going into a situation like they've been in for the last couple of weeks, not getting paid, you have one little mistake and you've got hundreds of Americans' lives literally at risk. And it's happening with hundreds and thousands of flights every single day in this country. It's happening. Over what? Over not passing a clean, continuing resolution? And then people get emboldened by what happened on Tuesday night? I mean, that is just beyond dangerous. And something that right now, I really hope and I pray that common sense prevails on all this. Now, if you're traveling, I don't know if this is something that you've been thinking at all about at 913-408-7957. But, I know there are millions of travelers who have been impacted or who will be impacted over the next couple of days unless they reopen the damn government. And just get back to business as usual and then do all your food fights. I mean, please have at it. All right, fight about Obamacare subsidies. Let's do it. GOP has failed on having any answers on health care, so they just scream about how, well, this stinks. And they're right. It does stink. Cat's out of the bag on Obamacare subsidies and how much money is getting wasted on it. That's true. But for 10 years now, 15 years now, the GOP has not had a single answer to any of it. I mean, they just, gosh, they have not had an answer on any of it. And something I didn't have on my bingo card this morning is Marjorie Taylor Greene was right.
Talk about a bombshell.
I know. I can't believe it. But I'm seeing her making all these media rounds over the last couple of days. And I don't even know which network she said it on. But Marjorie Taylor Greene pointing out that Republicans don't have an answer on health care. She's right. Once again, I did not expect to be saying those words. But she's absolutely right. But you guys have all those food fights. Just get the government back open. Walter's in Spring Hill. What's up, my man?
Hey, Pete. I was telling John, my wife flew up to Virginia Beach where her son's in the Navy to visit the grandkids, and she's supposed to fly from there to New York to visit our daughter. And with this shutdown, I don't like flying anyway. I'd rather drive 20 hours and wait around on airports and fly a 2-hour flight. But I'm going to go pick her up in Virginia Beach and then drive. We're going to drive to New York and spend Thanksgiving, and then we're driving back because I just don't trust this airline stuff.
Okay, so is she there already in Virginia?
She's already in Virginia. She flew about 2 weeks ago, and she's scheduled for a week from Saturday to fly to New York, where our daughter is. And so I just don't trust it. I was going to take off a couple of days, but I'm going to take off that whole week, and I'm going to drive up to Virginia Beach, pick her up, and we're driving from Virginia Beach to New York, spend Thanksgiving, and then we're driving back here to Kansas.
Well, you're going to get your miles in, my man. Jeez.
Well, yeah.
Wow.
I love to drive. I'd rather drive, like I said, I'd rather drive 20 hours than screw around with a 4-hour flight.
Yeah.
I detest the airline.
All right, so you've already made that decision then. You're just getting in the car and you're going. What if the government opens up like today or on Monday? You're doing it anyway?
I don't care. I'm still going to get her.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, that's a lot of Mundo in the Morning podcasts you can listen to on your 20-hour drive.
You bet. You bet I will be.
There you go. All right. Nice job. Well done there, Walter. Right. Stay safe, buddy.
Thanks.
You bet. There you go. Got in the old podcast plug while I was at it. How about that? Nice job.
See what you did there.
Thank you. Pat myself on the back for that one. Well, I can't sit here and blame him, right? I mean, especially if you prefer driving anyway. 913-408-7957. Pete, my husband flew back from Dallas last night. He said the line for security took over an hour. His gate got changed 4 times. They had to change planes. He had a delay. They couldn't get snacks. He said it was an absolute disaster. But he said he had no issues getting out of MCI. Well, yeah, we're not having those issues here yet in Kansas City. But Dallas is one of those airports, whether it's DFW or Love Field. They were both on the list for airports that are going to be and have been impacted by the scale back of flights and air traffic controllers and things of that nature. Didn't get his snacks. Geez, that is not good. Now, the snacks keep getting worse depending on which airline you're on. The snacks just get more pathetic, it seems like, every time I fly.
Walter's got the Buc-ee's mapped out.
Yeah, that's why Walter wants to drive to Virginia Beach.
That brisket sandwich. Brother.
Yeah, that's right. Make his way down to Springfield for stop 1, cut east from there, and before you know it, he's got 2 more Buc-ee's stops along the way. There you go.
Maybe a Brahms. Or
yeah, he may be able to squeeze in a Brahms trip.
East, man.
Yeah, instead of getting a stale small bag of 8 pretzels that you can eat on your flight. Oh, my goodness. It's just brutal, absolutely brutal. But I don't envy anybody who's flying. I got a sister-in-law flying in today from the East Coast. Supposed to land at about, I think it's about 4:30 or so. God willing, it's on time. Everything goes okay. But, then she's got to get back on Monday. So we'll see how that plays out. I just know this much. It's my wife's birthday, too, tomorrow. Kate's birthday is tomorrow. And, boy, not that you got to harden her any, but if Chuck Schumer prevents her sister from getting here for her birthday weekend, it is not going to be pretty at our house. I'll tell you that right now. I'm going to look like a flaming liberal by the end of the weekend if her sister doesn't get here because of Chuck Schumer. I mean, phew. You got to be calling me Obama by Monday between the two of us. Not good. Not good at all. Text line 913-408-7957 is how you join us on KCMO Talk Radio. We've got Nick Haynes coming up in 20 minutes. He is, of course, Kansas City PBS host. I'm on his show tonight, Week in Review. That airs at 7:30. I got a bunch of messages on Facebook. People said, hey, when are you going back on Nick's show? That came on Monday or Tuesday. It was on Election Day. I posted a photo of my middle daughter and I. You got to get back on Nick's show. It's like, I just go when he asks me. It's not my show. It's like people yelling at other people for not going on my show. I know how it works. The host has to invite you on, but coincidentally enough, he did this week. So we'll do that tonight, 7:30. Let's go to Paul in Kansas City. What's up, Paul?
Hey, Pete, novel idea if John Thune and Mike Johnson had get up there today and say, you know what? For the American people, here's the 66-page demands by the Democrats, $1.5 trillion, money for PBS, NPR, money for Iraq, everything. We're going to go ahead and give it to them. Have a nice day.
Why would you do that?
Well, I'm just throwing it out there. I mean, this thing keeps dragging on, and just give them what they want and move out. I mean, they're not going to back down. They're just not going to do it.
Would you do that though? Would you want basically the Republicans to just cave on this?
Well, I don't know because we can't blow up the filibuster. I don't think we can do that. We can't go that far, but. Otherwise, they're going to get something out of this. They're going to extract some kind of demands out of this, and I'm just throwing it out there. I'm just saying maybe we just say for the American people, we turn the narrative and say, hey, we're going to help the American people. We're going to give the Democrats, and then you start hammering on each one of the things that they got. And then you just say, okay, here you got money for NPR, PBS, money for Iraq, and all these other foreign countries. This is what they wanted. This is what they got. This is what they held you up for.
Just try to expose it all. I think that they can, thanks, Paul, I think they can expose it without giving them everything. I really do. But I think the bigger conversation about Obamacare subsidies and all these different things, I mean, those are very valuable conversations to have. It's just not going anywhere right now. It's not working. Democrats are dug in. Well, I guess I'm not an idiot if Bill O'Reilly is willing to be my friend. That is my takeaway from his morning update there on KCMO Talk Radio. Not saying I'm the sharpest tool in the shed, but at least Bill doesn't think I'm a total moron, so I'll take that as a win on a Friday morning, John.
Killing the Idiots book is coming soon.
The 21st bestseller of the series, Killing the Morons. At the top of the list, Larry in Prairie Village, Don in Blue Springs. I wouldn't do that. So this story's got national attention. Fox News wrote about it last night. Kansas mayor hit with criminal charges for allegedly voting as a non-citizen in several elections. This is out in Coldwater, Kansas, the beautiful community of Coldwater, Kansas. And I can say that because I've called high school football in Coldwater, Kansas. It may still be Coldwater Protection. They combine those two communities, but there's probably like 4 other communities now on the football team. But anyway, they got great people out there. However, their mayor, Jose Joe Ceballos, is alleged to have been voting illegally in elections. Fox News has written about it, so have other national media outlets. And Attorney General Chris Kobach, who will be on the show in 1 hour to address this story, announced charges against Ceballos, saying that there are 3 counts of voting without being qualified and 3 counts of election perjury. Now remember, this guy's the mayor. He just won re-election, 83% of the vote, according to the unofficial results. He is a legal permanent resident of the United States with Mexican citizenship. Ceballos was first elected mayor of the town just north of the Oklahoma border in 2021. Before that, he served 2 4-year terms on the city council. At a press conference, Chris Kobach alleged that as a non-U.S. citizen, Ceballos illegally voted in August of 24, November of 23, and November of 22. Election officials said Ceballos has been on the Kansas voter rolls since at least 2006. So one of my first questions to Kobach is going to be, how did the guy get on the voter rolls? How does this work? I mean, he's been on the voter rolls for 20 years. Now, I'm not sitting here and telling you that it's some mass conspiracy. Like, there's still this belief from some people around Johnson County that somehow the reason Sharice Davids keeps winning elections is because, like, there are illegals voting. I'm sorry, there's no evidence to back that up, okay? I know everyone thinks, too, like, people want to say, oh, all the machines are rigged in Johnson County. No, they're not. You're just getting your clocks cleaned because the local GOP is not doing a good job. They're just not. But there are problems like this, and there are examples like this. So it's not as clear as, like, it never happens. It does happen. Here's an example of it. It doesn't mean it's happening en masse, but it does happen. The question is why? So, of course, the Kansas City Star writes about this, and they're trying to soften the whole thing. They write here in their piece, which was the headline story on the website last night at the Kansas City Star. It'll probably show up in Sunday's paper by the time they get it up to Iowa, get it back to Kansas City. It's, going to be 3-4 days from now. In comments under the post on Coldwater's Facebook page, community members grappled with the news of the charges brought against Ceballos. His daughter defended her father's integrity. She said, "You all know my father and know that he is a hardworking man. I can promise you he truly didn't know that he could not vote or run for positions that he ran and served. It is a very sad day." Others weighed in with their own thoughts about the mayor. One user commented, "Joe was a pleasure to work with when I worked for the city, and he was head of the water department. He's one of the most honest, intelligent, and hardworking people I know. He obviously won by a landslide. I pray the city gives him their full support. This petty action by Kobach makes me ill." Another user commented that Ceballos should be granted U.S. citizenship, effective retroactively from the time he began all his service to the community. Listen, he may be a good man. I don't know the guy. I really don't. I don't know the man. He obviously does care about his community. And he's wanted to give back to his community, and he's run for local office. And let's be honest, there's a lot of people that want to complain that won't even get out there and vote. This guy, for whatever reason, at least wants to give back to his community. And let's be honest, that's a pretty red part of the state. So I'm sitting here thinking that he's probably not some crazy woke guy in Coldwater, Kansas. But that doesn't matter. That's not the point. The point is you can't have people who aren't U.S. citizens holding elected office. You just can't do it. And I don't really care what their political leanings are. I mean, could you imagine going to Europe and being like, I'm going to run for this office in some country in Europe, and people are going to be cool with that when you're not a citizen? No. And nor should they be cool with that at all. But this idea that the guy should be granted U.S. citizenship effective retroactively because of his service to the community? I mean, that's the dumbest idea I've ever heard. You got to be kidding me. Sure, that'll entice people who aren't citizens to run for office and then make them retroactive U.S. citizens? Geez, what a just brilliant idea. You can't be doing that. I know Facebook is a cesspool for bad ideas, but that's right up there with the worst of them. One user questioned whether the city's legal department would represent Ceballos in court, and another posted a meme featuring President Trump with the caption, "Enjoy an ice-cold glass of deportation." Okay, so the Star's trying to make it out to be everyone's just posting Trump memes that disagrees with this guy being in elected office as a non-citizen. I mean, come on. It's obvious what the Star's trying to do here. It's so obvious. All right, let me ask the farmers this, because Roger Marshall, Kansas U.S. Senator, put it up yesterday on social media, and it is the fact that sorghum farmers should be very happy today because the first shipment is on its way to China. This was part of the deal that was set by the President of the United States, where, of course, they are going to be buying more of our grains. And Roger Marshall sharing yesterday that 60% of America's sorghum is grown in Kansas. He says this is great news for our Kansas milo farmers. It was a post that was first put up by Secretary Brooke Rollins. She runs the USDA. She wrote yesterday afternoon that the first shipment of American sorghum is on its way to China, thanks to our deal maker in chief. So I'm glad the farmers are going to make some money. I'm glad they're doing well. Am I thrilled that we're helping out China? No, I'm not. I'm not. If it's a short-term boost to help out the farmers who are struggling, okay. All right, good. Fantastic. But is it the long-term answer here? Is it truly America first? And that is where, if you're in the industry, because I'm just scratching the surface here, all right? 913-408-7957. Is this really where you want to see Kansas sorghum go? Do you want to see it going to China in your perfect world? I don't think anybody can come to the conclusion that the answer to that is yes. I don't know why that would be where we want any of our crops to be going, any of our grain to be going, anything to be going to China. But I understand that we've got this buildup. We've got an oversupply of it. And if we don't get it somewhere, well, guess what? That hurts the farmer. So I understand the issue that the farmer is facing on this front. But I'm also not going to do cartwheels over helping out China here, because we know they're the worst actors on the world stage, right? Whether it's going back to COVID, whether it's fentanyl coming to Mexico, getting across the U.S.-Mexico border, like they're bad actors. The Chi-Coms are not people that we want to help at all. So I'm just not sure that bragging about this is really the play right now. The farmers who are getting helped here by this, they know they're getting helped by this. But I don't sit here on a Friday morning being like, oh, boy, good thing. This is just, whew. Boy, I was getting worried. I'm glad those Chinese are going to get their sorghum. Nah. 913-408-7957, the text line and the studio line here on KCMO Talk Radio. And it brings up the broader conversation, too, about the economy, specifically the price of groceries. And this is right now a fine line that this administration is trying to walk. They're trying to say things are better, but you do not want to go down the route of Joe Biden. You don't, nope.
Come on, man.
You don't want to do it. No. Biden spent 4 years trying to convince you that the pain that you were feeling, that we were all feeling at the grocery store and elsewhere, was not real. And, well, what's the big deal? I'm doing a great job. And there's an element of that going on right now from some in the Trump administration. I mean, I couldn't avoid going on social media yesterday and seeing all these posts. Oh, boy, food prices everything's great. You guys, we just got to talk about it more. Well, first off, the data on the grocery prices does not suggest they're great. The grocery prices have shown a 4 to 5% uptick largely year over year in most parts of the country. It's not great. That's outpacing inflation as a broad number. So acknowledging that there is still a lot of pain and there are still a lot of issues is the way that you actually connect with people. Now, I believe in this administration and what they're doing and trying to do to bring prices down. I certainly don't want the other guys and gals in charge. No way, no how, no thank you. But please don't sit here and tell everyone that it's all just hunky-dory, everything's awesome, because it's not. There still is plenty of pain out there, especially at the grocery store. And this is something that, of all people, was brought up by Marjorie Taylor Greene yesterday. I mean, she nailed it on CNN when she was talking about this last night.
The president says there's virtually no inflation and that grocery prices are going down. Do you agree with him on that?
No, I go to the grocery store myself. Grocery prices remain high. Energy prices are high. My electricity bills are higher here in Washington, D.C. at my apartment, and they're also higher at my house in Rome, Georgia, higher than they were a year ago. So affordability is a problem, and I'm a mom. My kids are 22, 26, and 28. That's the generation I worry about the most, and they're having a very hard time. But when I go back home and I talk to many of my constituents, I'm hearing stories of not only are we having a really hard time affording groceries and rent and things like that, but I'm also hearing stories about people maxing out their credit cards just to afford their monthly expenses.
So when the president says that it's not that affordability hasn't been fixed, it's that people and Republicans aren't talking about it enough. That seemed to be a takeaway of his from Tuesday night's elections. Mm-hmm. You disagree with that sentiment? I think Tuesday was definitely a referendum on how leaders in this country are leading. And I believe in America First policies. That's why I campaigned for President Trump and have supported him as long as I have, and I do support him. But I want all of my colleagues to come through in action in supporting America First policies. And I think the American people showed that on Tuesday. You're not going to convince them to go to the polls and vote by bailing out Argentina. And you're not going to convince them to go to the polls and vote by continuing to fund foreign wars and foreign countries and foreign causes. You're going to get them to go to the polls and vote when you show up to work and actually fix the problems that they face every single day.
Marjorie Taylor Greene is right. That was not on my bingo card this morning, by the way, but, you know, we all shock ourselves once in a while. She's right. Now, I think a lot of the foreign policy stuff has been important, and there's definitely things there that need to be done to make the world a safer place. But if people are still feeling the pinch when it comes to the grocery store, all that stuff is always going to be secondary. And I thought that J.D. Vance had kind of a cryptic post the other day after the elections, and part of his post read as follows. He says here, I think it's idiotic to overreact to a couple of elections in blue states, but a few thoughts. And he writes here, we need to focus on the home front. The president has done a lot that's already paid off in lower interest rates and lower inflation, but we inherited a disaster from Joe Biden, and Rome was not built in a day. We're going to keep working to make a decent life affordable in this country. And that's the metric by which we'll ultimately be judged in 2026 and beyond. He's right. They did inherit a mess. It can't get fixed overnight. But please acknowledge that. Like, that's the approach. Hey, we're working on it. We know we're not there yet, but here's what we're doing, steps A, B, and C, to try to continue to solve it and fix it. Instead of saying, everything's great, Thanksgiving meals are down, prices are down, everyone's happy. It's like, no, please. No. And there was this big story this week about how Walmart reveals 2025 Thanksgiving meals that they are offering are at their lowest levels since 2019. And folks in the White House were bragging about that. Well, yeah, the price was down because this year's meal from Walmart contains 15 items, and they're largely great value items, while last year's meal contained 21 items. So, yeah, the cost is down. The cost per unit in the meal is up. So let's just be intellectually honest here and say, listen, we know that it's still sticky out there. We haven't fixed it all yet. But nothing pisses me off more than someone just lying in my face about it. I'd rather you just say, listen, we know it's still painful. We're working on it. We're got our plan. But don't tell me everything's great. That just annoys me to no end. 913-408-7957. Mark is in Independence. Hey, Mark.
Hey, Mundo. It's good listening to you. Listen, when I was in college, studied economics back in the 80s and 90s. Economists loved a 3% inflation rate because they said that was a sign of a slow-growing economy. And I remember we had that under George Bush, and even then it was endorsed. Now, part of the problem is you put that 3% each year on top of the 9% that we had under Biden, and we're still trying to recover because, like you said the other day, our wages have not caught up.
Exactly right. I mean, there's no doubt inflation is down. But even when Biden would say, hey, our inflation's down, 70%, well, it's still at 3-4%, which when you were stacking that on 8, 9, 10% inflation numbers, not pretty. It's not what people want. Dennis and Bonner. What's up, Dennis?
Hey, good morning. Hey, real quick, you look at the prices of stuff. Okay, let's take energy. She brought up energy. Gulf Coast wholesale unleaded's $1.80 a gallon. The rest of that price is taxes. Energy, again, green energy. Look at your bill. I just got a deal from Atmos that they want to raise my rate again. Thirdly, they subsidize food right and left, okay? By subsidizing, I'm talking subsidies to the farmers. That's going to make prices go up, which makes your taxes go up. Wages are up. I mean, you don't want anybody making $40 an hour, $20 an hour? Prices are going to go up, period. And my point is, where are their solutions? Everybody talks about it, but none of them have a solution.
Well, I think they do, and I think they're working the plan, and that's where I give them the benefit of the doubt on this. The president obviously has gotten the gas prices down somewhat, in part by just encouraging American drilling, which is great. I mean, it's so obvious on how to fix that issue, and that obviously impacts everything that we consume because got to get around the country, right, with trucks and gas and things like that. So that's obviously a very easy thing to do. And they are deregulating elsewhere as well, which helps out on the price front. But there still is just a lot of pain, and acknowledging that is the first step. Not saying, hey, we're not bragging about how great of a job we're doing. The American people, as much as we say, people aren't paying attention, they're also not dumb. They know what they feel. And there are certain ways that they can go about at least approaching this without saying everything's amazing because we're in charge. That's not the play. Be real about it. Be honest about it.